Part of the recent work, which is mainly done jointly with Jonathan Ginsberg, consists in a larger scale approach to multimodal natural language interaction, where we try to come up with a unified model synthesizing different strands. That said, I have to disappoint you. This is not what I'm talking about right now, but just detailed from this work. So a little observation, which, well, I kind of like very much, and I'm happy to share it with you. And this little detail is headshake. Headshake is interesting because, well, one can have the impression at least, or one can make the assumption that shaking the head is a kind of non-verbal form variant of what we know from languages in terms of negation, like no in English. And there is some obvious evidence for this initial claim that head shaking is just a form of saying no. So you can use both no and shaking your head in answering a polar question, a yes-no question. So do you want some coffee? You can say no or shake my head and decline the offer. Interestingly, if the question is put with a negative proposition, don't you want some coffee? I can also refuse to have some coffee by shaking the head. In this situation, confirming the negative question, or to be more precise, the propositional kernel of the question. So here, head shaking and saying no behaves more or less the same, and this answer particle use of no is already known from linguistic semantics and dialogue theory. It is, well, it has been discussed, for instance, in a study by Jonathan Ginsberg and Ye Tian, who looked at different uses of no in some corpora. And using no as an answer particle is one of them. It just can be nicely represented. We like to draw these structures here in this way, where we have a proposition, and what no or the head shake does is apply a no semantics on this proposition, which is part of a question. The no semantics just works as we have just seen. If the proposition of the question is positive, our no or our head shake just negates it. If it is already a negative proposition, our head shake or our linguistic item negates it. So in the end, we always have some negative thing, and this is good then, because we think that head shaking and saying no is somehow bound up with some sort of negativity, of course. So if this is one use, you may ask, are there other uses? And perhaps not very surprisingly, there are. Here are two nice examples, which are called no with exophoric antecedent, where no relates to some situation, say, in the world, or no with implicit antecedent, where no relates to some inference or some assumption which arises from dialogue, but is not said explicitly. So assume you see a child which comes closer to a socket, you may say no. You will probably say no in a more aroused way. And the same reaction can be caused by a smashed beer bottle when you open your fridge and you are thirsty. No, the bottle is broken. The implicit antecedent no is illustrated in 4. So A and B are talking, and A is asking, how's your girlfriend? She's no longer my girlfriend. Oh, I'm sorry. No, she's my wife now. So obviously B build an expectation concerning their relationship, and B is happy. No, A is building the relationship, the expectation, but B is happy to destroy it. So, and what is important in the present context is that in both cases, we can, instead of saying no, just shaking the head without changing anything significant in the meaning of these interactions. So our initial claim seems to be supported once again. Of course, we have to think a bit more cross-linguistically, and our assumption that no and shaking the head are kind of this part of the same lexeme only is valid in cultures where the head shake is bound up with negation in the first place. There are cultures which, well, from my point of view, are a bit confused because nodding the head is associated with negating. So we have to restrict our claims to these languages, of course. So then we can observe some more interesting cases. So now we have looked at no, which reacts to some antecedent from context. Now we have the head shake, which acts on material which is presented simultaneously, so from the co-present utterance. So I don't believe you and I believe you in 5a and 5b. So I don't believe you seems to be pretty okay. We have a negative proposition, which by the lexical entry, I just show again in the top right of this slide, is just confirmed. So what I say and what I shake is pretty much the same. However, if I say I believe you, then I utter a positive proposition, but due to our lexical entry, our head shake negates it. So there's some contradictory flavor which arises from these kind of examples. So there seems to be a difference here. This difference can be prevented if you add a little bit of context. So say the I believe you happens in a context there are claims that our interlocutor B has stolen some money, and B says, they say I stole the money, but I didn't. And A can say, I believe you, while shaking the head. So in this case, we think we have two strategies in order to avoid any contradiction, or at least some puzzling impression. Namely, when we think that the head shake actually affirms the negative I didn't by B, but that the I believe you just expresses understanding of B's innocence protestation. So in this case, and this is important, the head shake and its simultaneous speech have slightly different functions, relations to the same preceding utterance by B. This is even more dramatic in the second strategy we have to ameliorate this example. Namely, we can think that I believe you, said by R, relates to what is colored in blue, I didn't, by B. But the head shake actually reacts to what is colored in red. Not sure if you can distinguish the colors. They say I stole the money. So this is the second strategy we have to deal with this kind of example. And in this case too, we have to dissociate our head shake from speech. In this case, they even have different antecedents they refer to. And well, I emphasize this point because this is potentially important for any study on multimodal issues, because there are claims that argue for an idea unit approach, which is quite prominent, or argue for heuristics that if there are multiple signs occur simultaneously, they usually are interpreted as one. So now we have seen that there is good reason, based on coherence, we would argue that we have to dissociate speech and head shake in this case. And this has already been observed by studies on laughter and speech laughter, where also these dissociated uses have been evidenced. So turning back to our second strategy, which resulted in shaking the head about the claims that B stole some money. This was an expressive use, actually. So we express our attitude that we don't like to hear such claims, so, but we are upset about it. More evidence for such expressive uses of shaking the head can be found in TV shows like this talent show from Italian broadcast. I think we have time to have a little. Oh. Wait. So you should see, okay. So this is the talent, and now you see what he's talented in. He's a good whistler, obviously.
And we can't hear anything.
Ah, you don't hear the...
No, you didn't share the sound.
Ah, damn. Okay.
You have to tick the little box when you share your screen.
Ah.
You have to share the computer sound. Yeah.
Very good. So let's try again. So he's whistling. And he's good at it. And this is what the judge
così e da piccolo pure io ero mezzo matto per I fischi, ma il fischio polifonico come il tuo è incredibile.
Incredibile, and shaking his head. Oh, I have to switch back. So we have these incredibile plus a head shake. And in this case, it seems to be that there's no negation involved at all. It's just an expressive use of shaking the head, namely a use that expresses somehow being amazed with what the talent just did. In this way, it can be understood as signaling disbelief. So I can't believe what I'm seeing. Disbelief could plausibly be some kind of negativity, which would speak in favor of the conjecture that every head shake has to be involved directly or indirectly some negative context. However, the disbelief or the cause for this disbelief is rooted in some positive appraisal. This is in contrast to what we see before, the stole some money thing, where we had negative appraisal.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, so there seems to be both positive and negative uses of shaking the head, negative and positive used in the appraisal thing. And this is also known from work on laughing, smiling, frowning, and sighing, which has been captured in terms of mood. So there seems to be a very general pattern which underlies a couple of, at first glance, very diverse non-verbal social signals that they are rooted in some kind of mood or arousal, which can be updated on our dialogue game boards. So let me just conclude by pointing out an observation, which I'm not sure what to make about right now. So we started with a claim that shaking the head is more or less a form variant of verbal negation. So we always could replace one for the other in the example so far. If you try this here, we have to necessarily speak incredible or no in some sequence. So you can't say both simultaneously with just a constraint of our speech organ. And it doesn't seem to be possible to say incredible first. So incredible, no, doesn't seem to work. So here seems to be a first exception to our claim that no and head shaking are very parallel. It seems to be possible, however, to say for no first and no, incredible. So I'm not sure what's the reason for this and whether this is important at all, but I wanted to share it with you, and that's all. Thanks.
Hey, thank you very much, Annie.